Hi everyone, welcome to Life Tips by Ning. In today's video, I'm sharing how to analyze a Bazi chart if your daily master is a young metal called Geng in Chinese, born in the winter season. Because the primary dominant element for winter is water, and out of the five elements, both metal and water are more leaning towards like the fall winter side, right? Which represents the yin or feminine energy. Whereas in contrast, the wood and fire, which is the spring and summer elements, they are more falling into this yang bucket of more masculine, extroverted, upwards movement. So this yin and yang contrasting energy is pretty fascinating within the relationships of the five elements. Earth actually falls in the middle, it's quite balanced. If you really have to have a deeper dive of the earth, there are really two types, right? The dry earth type and the wet earth type, depending on the hidden elements in them. And the dry earth type is more leaning towards the wood and fire category, whereas the wet earth type is more leaning towards the metal and water category. But regardless, if your Bazi chart, your dominant qi is both metal and water, I would say you can safely use this feminine yin type of category to describe that person. So you can say it actually give out this cold vibe. What does that really mean, right? The person might like to enjoy spending time alone, maybe likes to just be at home reading books or quite introverted. They typically don't like a lot of social interactions or social settings, probably gives them stress. Um, and another thing is metal and water, because water represents metal grows and supports water, right? So water represents this thing we ourselves create. Those people tend to be quite talented and have a lot of very creative skill and thinking to just set themselves apart from the rest of the crowd. In addition, this feminine energy is a really cool balance of this masculine and feminine, right? So, especially for a male person with a very strong metal and water element in their chart, they tend to be the softer, gentler kind. They're very graceful. And even for females, right? You just elevated that feminine energy. So, regardless of your like birth gender, they're both very graceful, elegant, talented, and not super talkative, and more introverted and prefer their own peace and quiet. So, in terms of how to analyze the Bazi chart, we know this young metal means this unrefined mineral material we dig up from underground or mountains. It's the number one prerequisite is it has to be in a really balanced and good condition, right? If it's so tiny or too weak in the Bazi, it cannot withstand the refinement energy of this constant fire pressure to reveal its precious metal inside. So my first check mark is I have to be strong enough, either in a more balanced state or even a little more leaning towards the too strong condition. In that case, young metal's number one friend out of all the elements is Yin Water, because Yin Water represents this constant temperature and sustainable fire source to refine this big mineral rock. With this type of a good tension and friend relationship, um, without the pressure, I'm not able to reveal my core talent and precious metal inside. So that's why number one, I want to make sure I'm in a good condition, and then I really want to see in fire to refine myself. So that's kind of the natural preference for young metal. Now that we wrap up the 4 seasons for young metal Bazi on Daily Master, we know that throughout this whole series, I've been emphasizing this yin fire's important role for a yang metal 八字, especially in the winter time because it's too cold and wet, and the dominant element is water. So it's even more important to have a strong and usable fire energy in their chart. That's why for this 3 birth months, if you look at the black part, right, that's the elements we want to see in our chart to make our chart in like a good bazi chart to begin with. Regardless, you see a bunch of firewood, the primary and secondary relationship switch because the condition changes from November to January. But regardless, overall, you want to see a very strong yin fire showing up in your bazi. The reason yang wood is another preferred element is yang wood is the best feeding source to keep this yin fire going in a constant and steady way. So for example, if position number 4, you see a yin fire, which is like check mark, it's the preferred element I want to see in my bazi. On top of it, if position number 8 is sitting on top of either a fire type of earthly branch or wood, especially yang wood type of earthly branch, it just makes this position number 4 even stronger and more useful. We want to see this preferred element, like the right dosage to treat the potential risk of too wet and too cold dominant climate. That's why like the positional placement in the bazi is important. Regardless, you want to see this number 1 favorable element yin fire to be in a usable and strong dosage condition. And this is just one way to make it happen. And another reason for November birth month, you like yang fire as showing up in your bazi. This yang fire, the primary job is not about refining metal because yin fire does a way better job of doing that. Yang fires is like the sunshine. The number 1 goal for it is to balance the climate so it's not super cold and wet, because we know earth supports metal, right? Like if I have earth showing up maybe at position number 7, I know it's a helper making this metal strong. But the thing is, if throughout your whole bazi you don't see any other yang fire showing up, a cold, muddy, and possibly frozen earth is not at the optimal rate to produce metal compared to if it's a soil warmed by sunshine. It just makes this supporting relationship even stronger. So that's why we want to see yang fire as a kind of secondary ingredient as well. It's the same logic for December, right? You kind of shuffle the sequence a little bit, but the players are the same. The reason yang wood is even showing up as more important is because for December, this water energy is quite pure and strong. So I'm worried that this preferred player yin fire might be extinguished by the strong water. So I really need this friend of yang wood to give me energy, give me constant support, so I can combat the pure water energy from December. And then this yang fire is the same thing, sunshine to warm the soil. Last but not least is January. The reason yang fire becomes primary for this month is technically the Yin Earth should support and grow yang metal, but the number 1 risk for this birth month is this Yin Earth is frozen earth. It's frozen solid, so it loses meaning of growing and supporting metal. And once you introduce this yang fire sunshine to unfreeze the earth, it will actually do what it's supposed to do to grow and support the metal. That's why yang fire is number 1. And then secondarily, you want this wood to grow in fire to refine this yang metal person. But regardless, this is kind of a fine-tuning way to look at it. Regardless if you're a winter-born yang metal person and you have a strong, super strong, useful fire energy, especially yin fire showing up in your bazi, it's a fairly good bazi to begin with. Then you're less reliant on this annual 10-year trend to introduce the medicine you need, because originally you don't have really major disease to be treated anyways. So yeah, that's how we analyze bazi. But next episode, I'll share a few case studies to further illustrate today's concept. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.